another culture. That was the total understanding. To kill one culture from another culture, you couldn't kill your own race, so you had to make them the other. And to this day, I spent 37 years of my adult life trying to get this word out. And now I end up well prepared as the Admiral of the Battlestar Galactica to say it to all of you. There is but one race, and that is it. So say we all. So say we all. So say we all.
So say we all. So, I love that you did it here at the UN. Because what better place to say it? But now let me ask you, because you brought up a really interesting thing. Seeking revenge is catharsis, after the fact of one's own, or still worse, an entire community's weakness or cowardice during a battle in the past. So the sowing of eternal hatreds, which is what you're really talking about, Eddie, of those families and the relations of those you slaughtered, and vengeance. I mean, these are huge themes that you all also hit upon, and just in my own opinion, it's one of the themes that no one ever talks about, because as soon as you say to whatever culture it is, we might have brought this on ourselves in the way that we have acted, you get knocked over. It's yes. Really, you're not supposed to say that, but I'm saying it because I'm in the UN. Nobody's going to hit me here. So your thoughts on it? Because to me, that's a huge part of Battlestar.
It is a huge part of Battlestar, and I don't know if it's in one of the clips that we're going to see, but I do believe that it is later on, where Commander Adama and one of the eights have a discussion about the responsibility for action and whether or not deep in our hearts we actually felt at the point when things were as dark as they could possibly be, whether we actually felt that the human race should survive. That part of our consciousness and part of our conscience was saying, we're not doing it right, perhaps this should end. Mm-hmm. And the other part of oneself that wants to go on and continue won over that part, but there is that question, and it's a good one that we should all ask, I think. If we're not going to do it right, then what are we doing? Is I think what you're saying, and the show does ask that. You ask that.
Mm-hmm. Are there questions up in the hinterland? There y'all go. Okay, so you have to wait for somebody to come with a microphone.
Okay, maybe while they're waiting for the microphone, I'll just kick in here. First to say, Edward, that you are preaching to the converted. I love to hear somebody who's passionate about human rights in these halls, so thank you very much. I agree with you wholeheartedly that race is a fiction that was created to divide, and it goes directly to the point that I was making about the concept of the other, and how these things have to be creatively produced in order to ensure the power imbalances that have haunted all of our societies. The language I was giving you was a quote from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It also uses the language of sex. We tend not to say sex anymore unless we're talking about sex, but to use the term gender instead in this case. So I agree with you, race is not real. What is real is racism. It is the differences ascribed to us by the other in order to keep us down, to oppress us, and to deny us the rights that are contained. So the idea remains the same, but I'll be the first to sign your petition to update the language when we're talking about things like culture.
I can honestly tell you, Craig, when a bug doesn't like you, that's racism.
That's so deep, I'm going to take a question from the audience. Number 2, please.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Naima Hakim. I'm from Hendrick Hudson High School, and I wanted to ask you all at the panel about technology. I know one of the major themes in Battlestar is technology going wrong. In our world, technology is a huge part of our lives, more and more, especially for kids. You know, communication is instantaneous. You know, we all love technology, we're addicted to it. You know, personally, I don't go a day without checking my email or my cell phone, etc. And I think another theme is that with this technology comes a power. And I'm not sure that my generation is fully aware of this power. What do you at the panel think kids should keep in mind in this age of technology that we live in? And can our technological addiction lead to a nightmare like the Cylons?
That's a great question.
Well, I think that the show posited a future or an alternate sort of reality where the technology had flown away from them and they had created these artificially intelligent beings that then rebelled against them, and then the entire myth of the show goes from that point. I think that today we are living in a moment when that is really going to come to pass in probably all of our lifetimes. I mean, it's been a staple of science fiction for many, many years, this idea of, you know, it really dates back to the Prometheus myth of, you know, Prometheus stealing fire from the gods. And in Battlestar, we always took that metaphor to say that, well, mankind stole the fire from the gods and created life. And that's kind of where we are now. I've seen recent reports that some leading scientists have said that within the next 5 years or so, there may be an actual AI, a real artificial intelligence. And I think we really have to think about these issues and realize that when that moment happens, when we cross that threshold, we're going to be faced with profound ethical dilemmas about what we do, and is it a person, and once it's a person, how do we treat it, and will we extend human rights to a life form based on silicon instead of, you know, organic beings like ourselves. And I think, you know, young people today are going to deal with it as a reality, whereas we've, as adults, have all dealt with it as science fiction and sort of fantasies of what if there were robots walking around and they were people. In the show, one of the key struggles and one of the key questions that the characters like Adama and Laura kept asking one another over and over again was, would they ever accept the Cylons as people? Would they ever accept them as a person? Because no matter what they said, they were still constructs. They were still artificial forms. They looked like us, they bled like us, they smelled like us, they made love like us, they did all kinds of things like us, but at their core, they were synthetic. And could you ever accept a synthetic being as a true being? And I think that's going to rush up on us, I think, before we've ever really thought through the implications of what we're really about to do.
Well, and it's already rushed up on us in terms of stem cell research. I mean, we continue to debate the possibility that that which may prolong our own lives is at the sacrifice of an actual life, or the sacrifice of some group of cells that might inform our science. And it's really a tricky issue. I mean, it's true that we went back to a lot of the greats like Arthur C. Clarke and Ray Bradbury to sort of advance these ideas, these timeless notions of technology run amok and what happens when humankind loses its ability to control its technology. And yes, we have to take certain precautions, and we have to be ethicists and mindful about what the other ramifications are. And yet at the same time, as we've seen over the last 8 years, we have stopped or certainly slowed down the advance of medicines